What really happened in Portugal that made armies all over the world fall silent and cry? Many initially thought that this was just an ordinary moment, just a warm interaction between the members. But seconds pass, and something unexpected emerges from Jungkook, a surprise that feels too personal to be a coincidence. The camera captured a sudden mood change, an expression that couldn't be made up, and a reaction that instantly gave fans goosebumps. Jimin, who is usually quick to smile and cover his emotions with a small laugh, was silent this time. His gaze was blank for a moment, as if trying to digest what had just happened before him. There were no words, no exaggerated responses, just a silence that felt very heavy. It was at that moment that many ARMY realized, this is no ordinary surprise. There are emotions that are too deep, too real, to the point that they are difficult to hide. Small clues began to be discussed. The way Jungkook approached, the timing that felt just right, and Jimin's uncharacteristic reaction left fans wondering, is this about old memories? About a promise that only the two of them understand? Or about something that has never been said in public? Social media immediately filled with speculation, repeated pieces of video, and comments ARMY who claimed to cry without knowing the exact reason. What is clear is that the moment in Portugal left its mark. Not because of the luxury or the scale of the surprise, but because of the raw emotion that was simply captured. Jungkook probably didn't say anything directly, and Jimin didn't explain his feelings either. But that's exactly where the power is. A silent surprise that speaks louder than words, and is enough to make ARMY realize that the bond between them still holds an unfinished story. The silence didn't last long, but the impact felt much longer. After the moment passed, Jimin was seen trying to take a deep breath, as if rearranging his feelings before returning to the surrounding situation. The little smile that finally appeared felt different. Not the cheerful smile that ARMY used to see, but a thin smile full of emotion. Many fans admitted that it was precisely that expression that made their hearts collapse. Jungkook himself did not move much. No exaggerated gestures, no attempts to steal the show. His attitude was calm, almost too calm, as if he knew exactly what kind of reaction would arise. And that's what moved ARMY even more, a surprise that wasn't made for the camera, but rather for the one person in front of it. Portugal suddenly felt like a private space, although hundreds of eyes watched. It didn't take long for the pieces of this moment to spread. The timeline is filled with one and the same question: what did we just witness? Some called it the most emotional moment they've seen this year. Others feel this is like a sign, as if a new phase is beginning, or perhaps an emotional breakup is being quietly delivered. Until now, there is no clarification, no official explanation. And maybe it's not necessary. Because for the ARMY, Jimin's reaction was enough to explain everything. There was genuine emotion, there was genuine shock, and there was a bond that felt so strong that thousands of people who watched it fell silent and cried together. Interestingly, after that moment had passed, the atmosphere around them seemed to have not completely returned to normal. A few short seconds ago, it felt imprinted, like an echo that did not immediately disappear. Jimin looked more reserved than usual, his movements more cautious, as if he still carried a feeling of unfinished processing. Many soldiers feel that this is the kind of emotion that only arises when a person is truly touched at the deepest point. Speculation continues to roll. Some suspected Jungkook's surprise was related to the long journey they had been on together, while others felt it was a form of tacit support amid pressure that was never really seen from the outside. Without words, without an open confession, Jungkook seems to convey a message that only Jimin can understand, and that is precisely why this moment feels so powerful. What makes ARMY even more emotional is the realization that not all feelings have to be spoken. Sometimes, one simple act, one surprise that comes at an unexpected time, is able to shake the heart more deeply than a long speech. Portugal that night witnessed how their relationship spoke through expressions, silences, and looks that could not be denied. Until now, pieces of the moment are still being played, talked about, and refelt by fans. Many admitted that every time they watch it again, the same emotions arise, a feeling of warmth, sadness, and at the same time, an indescribable emotion. And maybe that's why Jimin's reaction after Jungkook's surprise in Portugal was so impactful. Not because of the drama, but because of the sincerity, something that rarely and always manages to make the army cry without being asked. But precisely therein lies its strength. No explanation turns off curiosity. No clarification dampens emotions. Everything was left hanging, giving ARMY space to feel, interpret, and connect with that moment in a personal way. Many said they didn't know exactly what the shock meant. All they knew was the feeling of tightness in their chest when they saw Jimin had been silent for so long. Some ARMY even admitted that this moment felt more painful than the obviously sad farewell scene. Because here, sadness is vague, hidden, and feels real. Like the feeling that comes suddenly when you realize something valuable is changing, although it has not completely disappeared. Jimin's gaze, the way Jungkook stood near him, and the distance that seemed to say a lot silently, all merged into one scene that was hard to forget. And maybe that's the reason Portugal will always be remembered differently by the army. Not because of the big stage or the spotlight, but because of one little surprise that triggered a big emotion. An unplanned honest reaction, and a silence that just makes everything feel louder.